This is a follow-up video to the Labour Leaks scandal vid that I posted a couple of days ago, because there's been some further revelations and there's been a gross underreporting of this in the mainstream media, which is completely unsurprising because, of course, the major media are funded by massive sources of capitalist interests. Their revenue model, their funding model is based around advertising revenue. So they sell you, which is the tuned in audience, to massive corporate interests, these advertisers that pay massive amounts of money to shove their adverts down your throat. The advertisers are, of course, massive conglomerates and massive sources of capitalist interests. And so the media don't want to lose their advertising revenue because, after all, they're a business. And so they don't want to annoy their advertisers. And so they filter the news and give you a version of it that is in corporate interests. And where there is a massive threat to capitalist interests, such as in Jeremy Corbyn, who would have potentially nationalised the big six energy companies, telecom companies, the railways, who would have implemented changes to the tax structure, taxed wealth more, increased corporation tax, gone after tax avoidance, done massive redistribution policies, given employees ownership, and many other mildly socialist policies. The media massively vilify and slander and misreport and underreport socialist and anti-capitalist interests. If you want to read more about this, you've got to read The Propaganda Model by Professor Noam Chomsky. I'll put a link to it down below. But getting back on topic, let's not forget what this report is. This report is absolutely red hot, dynamite, explosive. It is one of the biggest scandals, definitely in British politics, definitely in my lifetime, in the Labour Party, if not in the history of the Labour Party. It is unbelievable because the extent of these individuals that took positions so high in the Labour Party and were working actively to undermine it and prevent the party that was paying their salaries from winning. And ITV have reported that Starmer was given the report a week before it was leaked. And yet in his response, he is talking as though he's never heard of this report and it was the first time he heard of it when it was leaked. Ultimately, Starmer's response has been, in my view, utterly woeful. He should, for two principal reasons. One, in his official response, he has put the whistleblowers who's leaked the report on the same moral footing as those that are implicated in potentially severe wrongdoing in the report, which is completely wrong. And two, he hasn't suspended, as far as I'm aware, anyone in relation to that report, that leak. Of course, he is now going to do an official inquiry, but the report has implicated many individuals that took the top echelon of the Labour Party HQ, and those that are still working for Labour have not been suspended. They should be suspended currently until the investigation ends, at which point, if it is confirmed what they did in this leaked report was true, and it is confirmed that some of that was illegal, like the racist bullying and so forth, then they should face, unquestionably, permanent expulsion from the Labour Party. Absolutely, definitely. Get them out. They don't belong in this party. This party has been formed as a socialist, anti-capitalist party, and yet it is completely infested with individuals that align massively with British capital and don't want fundamental change to this system, and who will happily sabotage from within whilst on the payroll, breach the Labour Party constitution, potentially breach many sections of employment law, such as the Equality Act, among other things, because of the racism and discrimination, and who will happily put two fingers up to all the hundreds of thousands of supporters who pay subs every month and who donate massive amounts of money to have their interests represented in this party. And these careerist charlatan wreckers have been allowed to destroy. And now justice must be done. Justice must be done. Because let's not forget what it has been alleged, what this report has allegedly shown. Potentially delaying and making it more difficult to process anti-Semitism claims on purpose for political gains to hurt Jeremy Corbyn and what he represents. That is shocking. There's evidence of the misuse of Labour funds, putting campaign funding into MPs who were anti-Corbyn and more centre-right, then allocating it based upon need, such as giving it to MPs in marginal seats that needed the funding more, in an attempt to sabotage the election. And the 2017 election was where Labour got 40% of the popular vote, only around 2% behind the Tories. And when you actually look at the data, they came within less than 3,000 votes in these swing seats from winning the election. There's evidence, as I've pointed out, of massive breaches of the Labour Party's constitution and potentially of employment law, and such as the Equality Act, because of the rampant discrimination and racism that is unfortunately evidenced in those primary source materials. And there's also evidence of Data Protection Act breaches, of which a certain very prominent, extremely prominent backstabbing MP was involved in possibly giving protected information away. There's evidence of purposely not giving information to Jeremy Corbyn's office to sabotage the campaign. And there's also evidence of manufacturing a crisis by tampering with, in a completely dishonest way, the Labour Party's disciplinary process, of which, again, some senior politicians were involved. It is massive. It is absolutely massive. There was essentially a party within a party involving individuals from this Labour HQ and some very senior MPs and some very senior non-elected officials were actively sabotaging the party on purpose for political gain. They were working to stop him winning, to undermine him, to try and plot against him, to overthrow the Jeremy Corbyn movement. And it has now been reported, at least with ITV, that Jenny Formby, the General Secretary, did authorise this report, and she oversaw it with individuals from the Governance and Legal Unit. And it was supposed to be an addendum, like an annex to a full submission to the EHRC into how the party have handled anti-Semitism. But of course, when the party lawyers have seen how red hot it is, they have decided it shouldn't be released, which is obviously completely wrong. And so it has then leaked to the public.